Hi, I'm Pam, and this is my monthly update video letting you know everything that I was up to in the month of June. Hey everyone, and happy summer! I've had a good June. We had a lot of gaming events going on, including Summer Game Fest, which I streamed over on Twitch, as well as made a video highlighting some of the standout games from that. I even got to play a couple of the demos from those, which I will talk about a little bit later in the video. There have also been a number of podcasts that I've been on. As normal, there's been a new episode of Point and Drink Adventure. You can go check that out on the Point and Drink Adventure channel. Subscribe to that if you aren't already. And I was also a guest on 2 other Polymedia Network podcasts. First, I was on the Split Up podcast with Dylan and Mook. This is a podcast all about horror movies where each of them pick a horror movie to show the other. They watch them, they talk about them, what they like, what they don't like, analyze them. This was my second time on the show, and this time the movie I picked is called The Invitation, directed by Karen Kasama, and Mook brought What Lies Beneath, which is a Robert Zemeckis ghost story with Michelle Pfeiffer and Harrison Ford. So it was a really good time rewatching The Invitation. I hadn't seen it in a while, and getting to chat about it with Dylan and Mook. So if you're into horror movies, go check out Split Up. And for the first time, I was a guest on Uncle Doug's DVD Bin. This is a podcast that focuses on the kind of movies you would find in your Uncle Doug's DVD bin. You know, 80s action flicks, some 90s stuff, the kind of things you find, you know, that everyone sort of has, the movies that everyone knows. And I was very excited to be asked to be on this one because they were talking about one of my most rewatched movies, which is Jurassic Park. Love that movie. It was great to talk to Travis and Kevin, who are both very funny, going over the entire plot of Jurassic Park and making some jokes along the way. If that sounds interesting to you, go check out Uncle Doug's DVD Bin. So before I get into the games I finished or maybe retired, I wanted to talk about some of the demos I played at Steam Next Fest. This happened, I don't know, sometime in June, though most of the demos were up longer than the actual Next Fest went. I was kind of disappointed because one game I really was interested in from Summer Game Fest, Possessors, which is by the people who made Hyperlight Drifter. There was a demo, but by the time I got to it, it had been taken down. I tried to launch it. It was like, sorry, you don't have a license. So I was pretty disappointed that that one wasn't available when every single other demo I had downloaded was. But I'll get to it whenever it comes out, I guess. So in terms of the things I did get to try, there was a new demo for Aeterna Lucis. Lucis, I never know how to say that. This is the follow-up to Aeterna Noctis, which was a great and very difficult and very long Metroidvania that I reviewed a couple years ago. I overall really liked this game, and this one is a sequel where instead of playing the Lord of Darkness, or the King of Darkness, you're playing the Queen of Light, who is his nemesis. It seems like it has a different set of mechanics for her, as you would expect. I was actually surprised that just in the demo, the platforming got difficult pretty quickly. Like, Aeterna Noctis had very difficult platforming, and I was thinking, you know, there'd be a ramp up, but in this demo, it started off pretty difficult right from the jump. There's definitely some precision kind of platforming in terms of jumping and launching yourselves in different directions and being able to sort of blink through light walls, things like that. Overall, I really liked it, though I did have a problem with some of the visuals. In Aeterna Noctis, there were occasionally just very glowy effects in some places, and in this demo, I felt that everything was very glowy, even the menus, like it had a bloom effect on it. So I hope that isn't the way the whole game's gonna be, but I really liked the actual gameplay, and the platforming mechanics looked pretty cool. I also played Ambrosia Sky, which is one of the games I highlighted in the Summer Game Fest recap. This is a game where you are a sort of disaster recovery specialist. You're going to a planet that's been taken over by these weird mushroom life form and kind of cleaning things up, putting the dead to rest. And I'm not sure if I'm gonna like this, honestly. It looks like Power Wash Simulator, which is not my thing at all, but with more of a story to it. And I was streaming this, so I wasn't reading the notes too carefully. The story looks like it's going to be good, but I don't know that I love the walk around and spray things with a hose gameplay. It's not super for me, so I don't know. We'll see as that game comes along if it's something that I'm actually going to be interested in, because the gameplay for me wasn't really doing it. Another one that I tried, well actually Dylan mostly tried because we were streaming these demos together, is called Dead as Disco, and this is like a 3D brawler beat 'em up combo based game. It's got really cool music and it's really stylish, but the sort of brawler beat 'em up genre isn't one that I really loved. Dylan, on the other hand, loved this and thought this is something that he could play a lot of. But yeah, Dead as Disco, not for me, but still looked very cool. Another Metroidvania is MIO Memories in Orbit, and the highlight of this one is definitely the art style. Everything is just beautiful colors. It looks like it's done just like hand penciled in. The gameplay seemed fairly standard. I didn't get through the whole demo, but what I saw felt, you know, what you would expect. Some decent platforming, some rather weighty feeling combat. I didn't get too far into it. There wasn't immediately a map, which I wasn't a fan of, but again, didn't play that long. I'm sure a map will make an appearance at some point. But yeah, art is definitely what stood out to me most here, so I'll have to see more of it to see how the gameplay shakes out. Also, something that I didn't even know was getting a sequel, Neon Abyss 2. This is a sort of run and gun rogue light game where you go down into a dungeon. It's all very neon. You collect different guns that all do ridiculous things. You collect the little eggs that hatch and follow you and provide various effects, and you're just basically going through these maze-like dungeons before you find a boss, get some upgrades, and go on to the next level. I played the first Neon Abyss for, I don't know, 10 or 12 hours. I felt like it was one of those games that was good enough to spend some time with, but not good enough to go through the arcane things you needed to do in order to progress in the game. So honestly, Neon Abyss 2 just looks like more Neon Abyss, which, you know, will be entertaining for a while. Space Adventure Cobra is an action platformer that's clearly based on anime. I assume it's a real anime. I don't like anime. It's got really cool art. Like it looks like you're watching a cartoon. The gameplay is pretty tight feeling. It is more of like a linear action platformer as you go. I did find some of the movements a bit too sort of like jerky for me. Like there's a lot of like charging up your gun before you can shoot, or like charging up an attack, and I like things to be just like a little more fluid. So this is another one that Dylan really liked, and I was just like, yeah, it's all right. So Space Adventure Cobra looks really cool. I don't know, we'll see if I give it any more of a chance when it actually comes out. No, I'm Not a Human is one of the things I think I highlighted in my Summer Games Fest video. This is a apocalypse survival simulator where people have come up from under the ground and the sun has gotten too hot and bright and it can burn anyone who comes outside during the day. So you're basically in your house, and at night visitors come and you have to decide if you want to let them in your house to stay safe as a group, or if you think they're one of these people from underground who's going to end up killing you. So it's just a matter of listening to news broadcasts and the radio and hearing hints about, oh, these bad visitors have red eyes, or so you have to question them and examine them and think and decide whether they're a real human or if they're not and they're going to be dangerous to you. So it mostly works like a visual novel. Like there's very little movement just through the few rooms that your house has. I loved the art style, just a very creepy, disturbing looking art style. I'm not positive that the actual gameplay loop is going to be enough to keep my attention. I guess we'll have to see. I think I played through like 5 days in the demo, and it's an interesting concept, but I don't know, I feel like they're gonna need to keep adding layers onto it to make it interesting, and I'm not sure what other layers there are. And lastly, a game that apparently the whole Devolver Digital show got dedicated to, Ball Times Pit. This looks like one of those mobile game ads that you see where you're like a bunch of soldiers and you have to decide which lane to go through to shoot things and get upgrades and get money. And this is definitely one that a lot of people are going to lose a lot of time to. I feel like if you're a fan of Vampire Survivors or Brotato, this is probably going to be a great game for you. It's like a, what's that block breaking game called? I forget, but it's, you know, you're just shooting balls, they bounce around, they damage your enemies, you level up very frequently, you pick one of 3 upgrades to go. By, 5 minutes into a level, you've got like fire and poison and just like boo boo boo. XP everywhere, bullets everywhere, gold everywhere. It's one of those like slot machine dopamine games, which I don't like at all. So I'm definitely going to be skipping this one when it comes out, but I have a feeling it's going to be very popular. Alright, so now onto the games that I played all the way through, or retired. First of all, I did end up finishing Doom: The Dark Ages. Last update video, I talked about how I wasn't particularly enjoying it. I thought it was tutorial laden and a little on the boring side. The game did get marginally better after the first 6 or 7 levels, which is honestly a lot. I think there's 22 stages. So having to say, oh, just get to stage 8, which is a third of the way through the game before it gets good, is kind of a big ask. But eventually the tutorials got less. Some levels did end up being fairly fun. The levels look pretty nice. The weapons are interesting. There's lots of ways of upgrading them and the different modes to use. So the guns are fun. It still just kind of felt like a Simon Says game with like, oh, green, parry. Oh, purple, execute. And it's not even a fun execute. There's no more glory kills, which sucks. Some of the levels were entirely too large, just big, huge, open levels where there was far too much to do. I think the longest level took me over an hour and a half to beat, which was ridiculous. I still felt like the Titan mechs and the dragon riding were something that looked really interesting from the trailer, but ended up being the worst levels in the game. They were just not interesting at all. They took anything bad from the gameplay and just completely honed in and focused on that. So I kind of felt similarly about this as I did end up feeling about Doom Eternal, where I thought the beginning was a slog and the end of this was a slog and the middle was all right. So yeah, that was my final thoughts on Doom. Very boring, long cutscenes that I didn't care about. It's such a strange thing. Like, I know Doom has a lore to it, but I'm the Doom Marine. Like, don't talk to me, don't talk about me, just give me a shotgun and let me go kill demons. So all of this cutscene just seemed wildly out of place and uninteresting. But yeah, Doom: The Dark Ages, can't say I recommend it to anyone. On a brighter note, I've played Gears of War 3, wrapping up the original Gears of War trilogy. Dylan and I have been working our way through this over the last year or so, and I felt like Gears of War 3 was a very fitting end to the Marcus Phoenix trilogy. I've liked all of the Gears games that I've played so far. They work very well in co-op. I like the banter between all the meatheads. I like the guns. I like the areas where you both pick an area and you kind of split up and do your own thing, then come back together. I think Gears of War 2 was my favorite of the series. I just really liked some of the environments and levels in there, as well as the various different vehicle segments that you got to control different things. It sort of jostled up the play style a little bit. But Gears 3 was good. The story ended up going, in a nice way. There were some cool boss fights. And yeah, generally just a very enjoyable co-op shooter. The last adventure game that I was streaming over on Twitch is a new one called Rosewater. This is by Grundislav Games. It just came out in 2025 and I played it on PC. This takes place in the West. It's a Western. It's in the same world as Lamplight City, which is another adventure game that I really enjoyed. That one was more of a steampunky London. This is more of a Old West kind of thing. And you play a woman who is a writer, and she ends up following a guy named Gentleman Jake who lets her in on a possible treasure to be found. So they sort of form a posse of people and go across the land and try to find this treasure. And it's very much a party-based game. There is, a plot, there's something driving you, but most of what you're doing is doing things for your party members, getting to know them, making decisions that's going to impact your relationships with them. And I thought that this was really well written. It's got cool rotoscoping animation. All the voice acting was great. Though I did feel like this about how I feel about Broken Sword, where everything's good, the writing's good, the voice acting's good. I just wish there were less of it sometime. I'm interested in the main characters, but sometimes when you'd go off and meet a new group of characters, there was just so much dialogue that you had to go through. You need to learn everyone's backstory and ask them about everything before you could make any progress. And there were definitely times where I was just like, can I play now? Can I solve a puzzle or click on something other than a dialogue option? So it is a point-and-click adventure game. The puzzles, for the most part, make sense. I thought the puzzles were good. I just felt like the balance between dialogue and everything else could have just nudged up in another direction a little bit. So yeah, I thought Rosewater was definitely a very solid game, but as I complain about many games, needs an editor for conciseness. The next game I finished is The Altars, which is by 11-Bit Studios, just came out this year. And this is one of my most anticipated games of the year. I really love 11-Bit Studios. I love This War of Mine and Frostpunk. You might be able to hear Lily eating her breakfast behind me. Sorry. The Altars is a game where you play a man who's gone onto a space mission. He's a builder. They land on this planet they're looking for, but you get there and the rest of your crew is dead. So you are basically manning this whole base on this planet by yourself. You need to mine for resources like metals and minerals and organics in order to build up your base and survive. But it's too much for you to do by yourself. Luckily, maybe you find this new resource called Rapidium, which is kind of what you were there for in the first place. And this allows you to create altars of yourself. So this is not just a clone, but basically an altar that goes back to some key decision point in your life and made another choice and went off on a new path. So you can get a miner version of yourself, or a doctor, or a worker, or a shrink. So you can build all those people, and then there's a sort of resource management, base management, having to do with telling people what job they should do, if they should make food, or if they should go mine, or whatever else there is. But then there's also a social management version, because these altars have all just been created out of nothing. They have conflicts with each other and with you. As you're going, you come up with different problems that the mission has and different things that command is telling you to do that you may or may not agree with. In addition to the in-base stuff, you're also running around the planet looking for places where you can set up mining operations, or finding strange anomalies that you can battle, and doing research about all the things that you're finding as you go. And I overall really enjoyed The Altars. I love myself a good base management spacey survival sim. I thought that the writing was good. I think it's honestly one of the most interesting game concepts I've heard in a very long time, and it definitely works well. I like the resource management and the base building. I like the social stuff. Occasionally there were some conversations with alters that got a little bit on the tedious side, or when something happened and you had to follow up with every single one of them to make sure they were okay with a decision that had been made. But they managed to keep it pretty interesting with the sort of different troubles they throw at you and how the different alters respond to it. I had a good time. I've actually played through it twice already because I went through once and then I wanted to try making some different alters that I didn't get to the first time. So my second time through was definitely a much quicker game. Yeah, overall, I really liked it. The one thing that sort of holds it back is there are some technical issues. And the subtitles aren't great. There's often like missing words or misspelled words, or they just miss an entire line of dialogue. Also had some issues with quests where a quest would stay on screen and stay in your log, even though it was no longer able to ever complete that quest, or if something happened out of order, it would cause a crash. Those things didn't happen like too often, but just often enough to be annoying. So it would have been nice if the game was a little bit tightened up in that way. But overall, I found the alters really good. It was a very interesting game and I liked playing through it. Enough to do it twice. And the last game I finished is called The 10 Bells, which is one of those anomaly spotting games that are apparently everywhere now. The first one I played was Exit 8. I don't know, a few months back, maybe sometime last year. And you're basically going through a loop. This one is in a pub and you have to spot anomalies. So if something is out of place, you have to turn around and go back to the beginning. Whereas if everything looks fine, you just continue going through. So you have to do this 10 times for the 10 bells and you have to get it right 10 times in a row. I feel like this genre only has legs for so long. There was definitely a lot more stuff to look at in this one than in the Exit 8, but it also definitely went into the sort of jump scare stuff. Like there was a couple of anomalies that were difficult to spot, and then some anomalies were like a ghost bursts out and kills you. Which is like, oh, that's a pretty obvious anomaly. So I guess they tried to keep up excitement by putting in some jump scares, but yeah, 10 Bells was not really my cup of tea, but Dylan and I streamed it and finished the whole thing in an hour. So this one's by Hillfort Games. It came out in 2024. I don't know. If you've never played one of these games, it might be worth it, but I think as soon as you've played one of them, there's not really a need to play anymore. And a couple games that I ended up retiring recently. First one is called Uragun, and this is by Cool to Play. It came out in 2020. This is a sort of mech-based, top-down run and gun that is also a roguelite, and the roguelite aspect is the thing that made me quit. I was just looking for like a cute little linear mission-based twin stick shooter where I could just run around and shoot things and find upgrades, and I think this one plays pretty nicely. Like the controls are nice, it looks decent. There's some cool options in terms of your weapons and upgrades. The problem with this one was just the length of the run and the roguelite aspect. By the time I finished, I think I had gotten sort of 3 worlds in, and each world has, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 different levels that you do, and it just got to the point where you die, and then just the idea of having to start again from the very beginning and go through another 20 levels to get back there just got very tedious. So I ended up putting this one down. It's one of those games where if they had just made it sort of a campaign, I would have enjoyed it a lot, but the roguelite aspect and the randomization and the length of it wasn't for me. Another one I I retired, is Creepy Redneck Dinosaur Mansion 3. This is by Strange Scaffolding. It came out this year, and I played the demo for this last year, and I was quite taken by it, but I found that it really only worked with me for the length of the demo. This is a strange mishmash of things. It's basically a visual novel match 3 game. I know that the creative director called it a Metroidvania. I don't think there's any Metroidvania comparison personally, but it's very fourth wall breaking. It's like you're going to the Resident Evil house, but this is the 3rd game in the series, which this is the 1st game in the series, but there's all this lore that you know about, and you find out you're actually in a video game, and it just gets like meta, where it starts out again like 20-30 minutes of this is like, oh, this is interesting and amusing, and then it just gets kind of tired. Same with the match 3 mechanics. It's a well done match 3, I think, but you know, a match 3 can only hold my interest for so long. So I ended up putting this one down. There is a lot of repetition because you do sort of skill up or learn new things that opens up paths that were previously closed off to you, which is where I guess the Metroidvania comes from. But I didn't find that repetition interesting at all. So yeah, I played this for a couple hours, but ended up putting it down. And lastly, an actual Metroidvania, I tried out 9 Years of Shadows. This is by Halberd Studios, and it came out in 2023. I played the demo of this probably in 2022, and I remember liking it, and I also remember it crashed midway through the demo and didn't save any progress, so I quit because I wasn't replaying even 15 more minutes of it. But it's a very pretty Metroidvania, beautiful pixel art. It's a world that starts out with no color and then it gains color. You have a little teddy bear that you can hug to sort of heal yourself. It's got sort of your standard kind of Castlevania style map to go through. My problem, well, I had a few problems with it. It is the kind of game where you have set save points. So if you die past a save point, you go back, you lose any progress, which can work for some games. A lot of games use it in a way where I'm happy with it. This I didn't like so much, partially because, again, I had crashing issues. After, I think it was just the first boss, I got an upgrade, didn't go back to the save point stupidly, and then died. Ended up having to redo that boss again, hit the thing to get the upgrade, and my game crashed. So again, back to the save point. Had to do it a 3rd time. But the weirdest thing about this game is how health is handled. You have a light bar, which works as both your mana for a ranged attack and like your shield for your health. So if you get hit, you can not only not do any of your ranged attack, but then you can actually start taking damage. And you only have, at least at the beginning, 2 health. So you have a big bar, which is easy to see, and then these 2 little health gems. And I just found that once you took damage, it was very easy to die, because seeing just like 2 little dots in a sword hilt isn't just what my mind looked at to see what my health was. So I thought it was a very strange way of combining health and mana, and I don't think it entirely worked. But yeah, I played this for not very long, honestly, maybe 45 minutes to an hour, but I ended up deciding it was not for me and moving on to another Metroidvania, which I'll probably talk about next month. So that's it for my updates from June. Leave me a comment, let me know what you've been playing, if you got any interesting pickups. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. If you want to see more, go check out one of my other videos here. And don't forget to check out my appearances on Split Up and Uncle Doug's DVD Bin. I have a Patreon if you want to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.